So ultimately, the main topic of my presentation today is kind of about opportunities for people with humanities and arts backgrounds who might be interested in being a part of open source engineering, public invention specifically, but as well as other groups. I know I personally was a little bit hesitant to reach out to public invention in some ways because it is very technical focused and engineering focused. And as someone with an English background, yeah, I was a little bit kind of outside of my depth and things. But at the same time, I think having worked with public invention for over a year, it's been a very eye-opening to the different things that I can be a part of, and I've just really appreciated the experience. So I do want to share that for other people who might have a similar background and be hesitant to be a part of it. I just really want to encourage everyone to think of getting involved. And so before I go into my main topic, I do want to provide a little bit more information about myself. So I've been working with public invention for over a year, since February of 2024. I've mainly worked as a technical writer. I've also become a bit of a staff member, so hopped around on a lot of different projects. But I've definitely really enjoyed it. And again, I do have a liberal arts background, so mainly English, studied a lot of poetry. And so it's been very fun having that background, then also going into kind of technical projects and things. So I've really enjoyed it. And a couple of the things I have been working on, I've originally started on kind of editing GitHub repositories and READMEs. So just kind of going through and proofreading different things. I also proofread and formatted a couple of technical articles, moving them from Word into LaTeX and formatting them according to the different guidelines from HardwareX. And actually, a couple of those were published, and that was a really cool experience too. Kind of learning more about the GPad and also the polyvent. I've also written a couple of blog posts for public invention, which I've really enjoyed, kind of meeting more teams and really highlighting people's contributions to the group. And then most recently, I've been working on a project database of open source medical devices that mainly came from during the pandemic, that we're really just wanting to like put into one place so they don't get lost kind of in Google. And we've been using an OKH format and collaborating with actually Open Source Germany. So it's been really cool to work with people kind of from across the world and put together that project as well. Okay, so kind of going into the main topic again, and kind of an overview of what I'm going to go over a little bit today, kind of the main first introductory kind of what is open source, in case anyone's not as familiar with open source, especially for people who might be watching this later, who have more of an arts or humanities background. You know, you might have not dealt with open source software per se, but chances are you've come across open source projects of one kind or another. Additionally, I want to highlight kind of why diverse skill sets in open source engineering specifically can be very helpful and really bring a new dynamic, I feel like, to groups like public invention. And finally, I want to highlight kind of steps of how to get involved with public invention for people who might be interested, based off kind of some of the points that I'll be highlighting. Okay, so first, to start off, kind of a bit of the basics, like what is open source in the first place? Open source is basically any project that is freely shared to the public. So for instance, public invention's motto is really to invent in the public for the public. So that's kind of the basic idea of it. Sometimes with open source licenses, there'll be restrictions such as you need to give credit to the originator of like a design or software, or you can't use specific things for profit. However, for the most part, open source is really about the free sharing of ideas and designs, and I think that's a really awesome side of it. Opensource.com defines open source as something, or open source projects as things that people can modify and share because its design is publicly accessible. These projects also emphasize principles of open exchange, collaborative participation, rapid prototyping, transparency, meritocracy, and community-oriented development. And I really do want to highlight the collaborative and community side of open source, because again, I think that's somewhere where people with humanities or arts backgrounds or communication backgrounds might thrive. And so we're going to put in the chat a poll kind of that brings up, what does open source mean to you necessarily? Because I do think it changes from person to person. It's not a set idea. So feel free to answer that. Um, and we'll circle back to that at the end of this presentation as well. Um, and I'll just give y'all a minute. My next point kind of is where people with kind of, again, more arts or humanities backgrounds might have actually engaged with open source, either entertainment or websites before, probably without knowing it. So again, it's not all necessarily technical projects or inventions. I know Khan Academy is open source. I know I personally used that in high school to study for the SATs and like for math tutoring and things. I think a lot of people have had some experience with that group, and that's an open source educational platform. On the kind of entertainment arts side of things, the rustyquill.com, they create a lot of open source stories, so like podcasts. The Magnus Archives is probably their most known project. That's at the end of each episode, they'll talk about how they're a Creative Commons company. Anyone can really take these characters or ideas and do with them what they will. Additionally, fan fiction, basically every type of fan fiction is open source. It's out there for anyone to read for free or to take ideas from and continue to build. And so, again, probably wherever you're coming from, you've had some sort of experience with open source documents and kind of the intense communities that I feel like form naturally around open source. And I think that these examples, again, kind of like highlight that community aspect of open source communities. Okay, but we're not just talking about open source. It's also open source engineering. Why arts and humanities people in open source engineering specifically. So ultimately, going back to what I was discussing a little bit earlier, open source relies heavily on collaboration, communication, and like the political and social ideals behind it of, really freely sharing ideas with everyone. And I think that people with arts and humanities backgrounds can kind of take that communication emphasis and really push it forward. Ultimately, I also believe that every project will improve when it has an array of perspectives and skill sets involved in it. Diversity of thought, diversity of background can really push things to be um, push everyone involved to think in a new way and come up with unique solutions to problems. And to kind of expand upon that point, I wanted to bring up a Stanford Business article. They talked about how diversity across teams, such as functional expertise, diversity of personality, things along those lines, can increase creativity and group problem solving. So again, just having different perspectives of whatever kind can definitely, I feel like, help teams to think of new solutions. Additionally, Indeed.com had an article about the top 10 most sought after skills for engineers. Some of those included problem solving, collaboration, teamwork, and creativity. And I think if those are sought for in individual engineers, they're probably also sought for in technical teams. And again, having people with arts and humanities backgrounds be a part of those teams, I think is one way to definitely provide some of those skill sets as well, or to at least provide that other perspective. And then kind of going back to my personal experience, I know as an English major, I've been able to bring a couple of different abilities to different projects that I've been able to work on, being able to write and edit documents quickly, take feedback and implement that. Also learning new technical skills fast. You wouldn't think it from English, but I do tie back some of my like ability to pick up TOEFL or LaTeX from my poetry classes, breaking things down by the slight lilt of the syllable. You can kind of take that into learning other things as well. Also having an eye for customer experience, kind of being able to put yourself in the shoes of the customer on the other side of things. Um, and I think I personally think a lot of these skills came from my education, or from my English background. And so if I got these skills, I think definitely people from every background can have these skills, but also others with arts and humanities. I'm not special. Will also have these skill sets and be able to bring those um, to projects as well. So basically, if there were roles that I was able to work on, then there are definitely places for more people like me to get involved in these groups. Okay, so I've kind of gone over the what open source is, why we need people with different backgrounds to get involved, and now it's kind of like from the other perspective, why might they want to get involved on their own end as well? I think beyond the mission of open source, there's also a lot of ways that people with arts and humanities backgrounds can develop through working with like a group like Public Invention. And I think a crucial side of that is just developing a diverse skill set. So again, people with these backgrounds have a lot of more of the creativity, soft skills type of things. But combining that with some more specific technical skills, I think can be really crucial to just developing and growing. I know for me, that's been something that I've really valued with my experience with public invention. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely value in that. And so going to kind of technical skills and technical thinking, why is that important? And how can you develop that through volunteering with an open source engineering group? Um, well, ultimately, I think technical skills are applicable to any future endeavor at this point, and being able to pick up new software like GitHub and WordPress, even if you don't use the specific technical skills or software that you learned working on a project, learning how to learn that software or learning how to think in a technical way when maybe that's not usually how people with these backgrounds um, would naturally think. It's just learning that other point of view as well, I think is really important for development and for just, yeah, fleshing out some of your skill set. Additionally, working with people who are more technically minded, I know I've really enjoyed that and just kind of seeing the way that other perspectives or other skill sets really tackle problems. I know that's definitely pushed me to think in a new way, and I've really appreciated that side of working with public invention as well. And then soft skills as well. So I think people with these backgrounds might already bring soft skills to the table. However, nothing really beats hands-on experience. So working with communicating between teams, on deadlines, working on different projects, and trying to get them, trying to communicate with people from across the world or with different perspectives. All of these things can definitely push people to um, use those soft skills that they've maybe learned in a class, and really apply that in a new way and really push them to, again, develop, think in a new way and practice those skills uniquely. And then beyond the just technical and yeah, beyond the technical and the soft skills, there's also the general supportive environment of open source. So I know for me again personally, working with Miriam Castillo and Robert Reed, multiple times they brought up kind of, hey, this is how you can describe this project on your resume, or here's a metric that you can describe when you're moving forward to like another role or things like that. And I think that side of open source that's just everyone really looking out for each other, as well as just supporting and mentoring each other, no matter what background each group is from necessarily. I think that side of open source has definitely been very special for me, and something that I've really enjoyed. And so I think I'm going to put one more poll in the chat, kind of about how asking for people that might already be involved in a group like Public Invention or open source, kind of if you could share how your volunteer experience has also helped you develop personally. Then moving forward to kind of the next topic of where can these people with different backgrounds kind of fit practically into the open source community or open source engineering community. And I think there's a couple of different categories of roles that people with these backgrounds can fill that can really help groups like Public Invention. So one set of roles are kind of more along the administration backgrounds, backbone side of things of the organization. So administration, project management, really communicating within the organization and within teams. I think just practicing that collaboration and communication and yeah, really supporting the people who are creating these awesome inventions is one set of roles that people with these backgrounds can fill. Another set of roles is kind of more outward facing. So again, we as the open source community want to share things with the public, so really promoting our mission as well as the projects that we're doing and trying to reach people and let them know what we're working on, what they can get involved with, or what they can participate in, or the open source projects that they can just, take a look at and build on their own as well. So these kind of event planner, fundraiser, social media manager roles are more outward facing and can kind of build the community, through just sharing the mission. And then kind of a mixture of these two types of roles, more content related. So technical writing, graphic designing, photography and photographers and video editors. All of these people can kind of work on documents or videos or just like final products that we can share with people to again promote the open source mission and the inventions that everyone's building. And ultimately, I do want to highlight, though, that there's no reason to really pigeonhole anybody. One thing that I've learned from working with Public Invention again is that mentorship supportive side of things of if you want to learn a skill, there are people here definitely who will look out for you and try to teach you that skill so that you can support the project and you can also learn new things. So if there is more of a technical side of things that people with these backgrounds, more artsy backgrounds want to get involved with, like definitely don't let it intimidate you that, oh, like this is written in a different, like a coding language, or I need to, learn X. There's definitely different ways to get involved and learn new things as well. Okay, and then the kind of more grassroots and practical, how do you get involved? I think definitely the step of just researching all the different options that are out there of open source engineering groups and really finding a group that aligns with your interests, specifically um, aligning your interests with their specialty will definitely go far. So I know a couple of different options of groups are GLIA, open source medical supplies, and then of course Public Invention. I'm a little biased, but I think all of these groups are really awesome and definitely check them out. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, just kind of definitely do some Google research, check out the different websites, find the mission that you really connect with personally. Also attend events like the monthly Inventors Gathering, like this one, but also for other organizations, just to kind of get an overall vibe and feel for the community there. Also follow groups on social media and feel free to reach out to people like Miriam if you're interested in volunteering. One other option for people that might be just bogged down with work or school or things, and you really don't feel like you can volunteer the full 5 hours that volunteers usually move forward with Public Invention. There are still other options to get involved with the open source community in general and just kind of keep in touch. So definitely, if you're somebody who's really big on communicating, sharing ideas, debating ideas, just keep open source in mind. Bring it up in conversation, debate it with others, kind of talk about how it could evolve or grow. And then, if the fancy hits you and you write an article, you can always reach out to one of these organizations and share a one-off article or just something else that you're working on. Just keeping in touch in general, and again, just keeping us in mind, I think, is another great way to get involved in the community and also just yeah, keep in touch. And in conclusion, I just want to share that the main point that the open source engineering community invites everyone to join the mission to invent in the public for the public. Ultimately, while we aim to build great inventions, and share that technical innovation with the world, we also want to work to build community connections and create a wider change. And ultimately, no matter your background, whether technical or non-technical, I just want to emphasize that you can be a part of that mission moving forward. And then here's just a couple of different options if you want to check us out. And yeah, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.